Hello everybody, my name is Alec and welcome back to a Blackout video, except this one is gonna be different from what I normally do. In this video I'm gonna be talking about what I would love to see in Blackout and what kind of update I'd want, and that update has to do with factions. I want the Blackout factions update. Because let's be honest, factions in the current base of the game, they are bland. You know that they're there, but you don't pay any attention to them. Oh look, you got a reputation, that's cool. Doesn't really matter, does it now? So I'm hoping with these suggestions and ideas that I'm giving, and if the developers do end up adding them at some point of the game, that factions can seem more dynamic and more friendly towards the game. Now I'm gonna be talking from the perspective of a rebel, because I'm a rebel. Hashtag VulturesL. So if I say that something should be added to the rebels, that also means that the same thing should be added into the vultures. I'm just talking from the rebel perspective, because I'm more familiar with rebels than vultures. Now all of these suggestions, I've been thinking about them, and I've been thinking how they could impact gameplay and economy. So I kind of looked at the balance and at the fun factor of these suggestions. So I'm hoping that these are okay. I'm hoping that these are good, and I'm hoping that you like these suggestions, and I'm hoping to see them in the game someday soon. So without further ado, let's go, I guess. So the first suggestion is a mission, and most of these are going to be missions. Actually, all of these are going to be new missions, and what I like to call faction missions. So there's going to be a new guy, I guess NPC, in Rebels and Vultures, and both of those bases there's going to be a new NPC which acts sort of like a broker, except it's not normal missions, it's faction missions. Missions specifically focused on faction gameplay. Now the first mission that this broker could give is something that I call faction bounties. Now faction bounties, from what you could guess from the name, is bounties from factions. And now my idea is that these faction bounties would be sort of like normal bounties where you see on the bounty boards and you go and hunt down the players, except these ones are gonna act a little differently. When you take a faction bounty, you get a completely random target and a set amount of time to hunt them down. Except this target that you're gonna get is always guaranteed to be the opposite faction of you. And if the whole server is filled with rebels and you're also a rebel, then you just can't take the mission. So this faction bounty system is just you hunting other factions. And if you happen to get a bounty on somebody who's 100% vulture reputation and you manage to kill them, then you will get a lot of reputation with rebels and XP and money. But if the person only had about like 20% vulture reputation, then you'd get a lot less XP, a lot less money, and a lot less reputation. So this is just normal bounties, except you're hunting other factions, which I guess could be pretty fun. So that is kind of like the faction bounty mission. I think that could encourage players to interact with factions more, and maybe a lot of people will choose one faction over the other because more bounties and stuff. But yeah, that's the little idea of faction bounties. Now the second suggestion for a faction mission is going to be supply run. Now the idea of a supply run is you go to the NPC, you get a mission called supply run, and once you get that mission, you are tasked to bring random items back to the rebel base. And these things can be anything from bandages to food items, maybe even Glocks. So you're basically just getting supplies for your faction, which I think sounds pretty cool, because, you know, a faction needs to support themselves somehow. And how do they do it? They use supplies that they find around the world, and you're the one bringing those supplies to them, you know? You're supporting your faction through hard work and labor. And in return, you get reputation and XP. And I guess money. You know, the developers can add any rewards they want. But yeah, with this, what this could encourage players is, of course, looting. You get the mission and it says bring a certain amount of food items and maybe a couple of healing items. And they go out, they search for the food, they search for the healing items, and, you know, get some valuables along the way and return them, get some rewards, and maybe loot up, you know. They found a Glock while searching for food. You know, this could encourage more searching and more looting gameplay in Blackout, I think. And it just sounds cool, you know, you're supplying your faction with materials and supplies. I think that's pretty epic. Now, the second suggestion is valuable collection. It's not money collection, it's valuable collection. And now you take this mission and you are giving a random amount of valuables that you need to bring back to your faction base. It could be anywhere from 3,000 valuables to 6,000 valuables. And so you go around the map again, searching for the stuff, looting safes, looting bags, looting lockpicks, and you do all of that, and you get the required amount of valuables, and then you come back to the base and you deposit all of those valuables, and you get reputation and you get XP. Of course, you wouldn't get money because it wouldn't make sense. You're giving money just for them to give you money back, you know? It's just reputation and XP seems like the most logical reward that they could give you. This, again, encourages more looting gameplay, but it also encourages stealth gameplay. Since you're gonna be running around with all those valuables, you don't want to bring too much attention to yourself, you know? You want to keep it sneaky, because if somebody kills you while you have like 4,000 valuables, that's not good. So you're gonna want to be sneaky and of course defend yourself instead of going in and searching for random people to kill. You're gonna want to defend yourself. Now the fourth mission that I have in mind is something that I wish was in the game already, and I'm sure a lot of you also wanted this. I'm talking about faction raids. Okay, raiding other faction bases. And now let me cook on this one, okay, because I got a pretty good idea. So again, you go to the guy, the dealer, the faction broker, and you choose to prepare a raid for the other faction for like maybe 2,000 cash, maybe 1,000 cash. The faction broker gives you that mission, and you have to go make your way to the other faction's base. Then when you accept the mission, you get your faction's clothes. So if you're a rebel, you will look like a rebel when you take that mission. Why you get those clothes, I will explain later. So you grab the mission, you go to the vulture base, and the raid starts when you shoot a vulture. So when you begin shooting vultures, that is when the raid officially starts. Now once the raid starts, maybe like 4 to 5 rebels spawn near the vulture base, rushing in to raid the vulture base with you. So raiding with your party members and with your NPC buddies, which I think sounds pretty cool, right? And the mission is pretty simple. You have to kill a set amount of vulture NPCs and loot a set amount of valuables from the vulture base. Now, to fix the issue of there not being enough valuables and maybe people camping the vulture base to get all of the valuables before you raid, I'm thinking of a system where if a member of the raid lockpicks like a locker or opens a bag, then that locker and bag will have increased loot. So other people that are not part of the raid will not get as much loot as the people that are a part of the raid. And once you kill the set amount of NPCs and loot off the valuables, you return back to the rebel cave, you turn everything in, and you get a lot of XP and you get a lot of reputation. And now, what's up with the rebel clothes that I mentioned earlier? Well, it's for this one idea that I have. When you officially begin a raid, every player that is part of the faction that you are raiding could get a notification saying, "Yo, bozo, your faction is getting raided, mind helping them out a bit?" And if that player decides to go out and defend their faction, if they manage to kill the people that are currently doing the mission, then they will be awarded with XP and reputation. So it's good for both sides. The raiders can get a lot of loot and reputation, and the people defending their factions can also get loot and reputation if they decide to defend their faction. So it is basically a big faction war, which could be really fun. And for the clothes, it's for the people who defend their factions to make it easier on who to shoot. Because if everybody looks the same and the avatars are mismatched, then how will the vulture know where a rebel is, you know? So that is why everybody in the mission gets rebel clothes, so the vultures would know who to shoot. And now I've been talking quite a bit about reputation in this video, and as you know, reputation currently no use. It's pretty useless except for unlocking new broker missions, but like come on, who does broker missions? I mean I do repair a bit. And I kind of like that mission, but everybody just spams cargo ambush. Nobody does other broker missions. And this is where I'm thinking of turning reputation into a second faction currency. Now let me cook here because I got ideas, okay? I got ideas. The idea is that in the base, in the rebel base, there will be a separate NPC for reputation. So you go up to the NPC and you talk with him, and you have all of these options. It's like a broker, except it's focused on reputation. So you trade a reputation for different things to happen. For instance, there could be a thing for 20% reputation. For 20% reputation, you could cause a blackout. So instead of paying 5,000 cash or whatever to cause a blackout, you could instead pay your hard-earned reputation to cause a blackout. You see, this is encouraging not only to kill people and loot, but to also interact with your faction to do the same things you could if you killed people or looted the map. So PvE players will have the same privileges that PvP players will have, which I think will balance out things quite a bit. So the first idea is for there to be a blackout option. The second idea is a bit more interesting. Like, imagine the situation. You're out with your buddies, you know, doing stuff, and you realize that you are very thirsty and hungry. And you go to your rebel base, and you go to that reputation guy, and you ask for a survival kit for like maybe 5% reputation. And what the survival kit could give you is like 3 items of food and like a couple of trauma pads. Now this wouldn't really make merchants and looting useless, because to get the survival kit you need to go to your base, which could be very far or very close by. And still, you're trading in your hard-earned money for food or your hard-earned reputation for food. And I mean, it makes sense, right? You're bringing in those supplies from the other missions to your faction, and now you can use those supplies, you know? You take care of your faction, and your faction takes care of you. That's the idea here. Make it dynamic. Make it feel like the factions are actually, like, doing something in the world. Like, they support you. Make it feel like joining a faction is like joining something real, you know? Something serious. And the final suggestion for this reputation currency, it sounds a bit cooked. It sounds crazy, but hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Trading in reputation for keycards. Now hold up, before you say anything, I know keycards are supposed to be valuable, but trust me, even if they added what I'm suggesting right now, the keycards would still be valuable. Here's how this would work. Imagine you want an orange keycard. You want to do a lab raid. That's great. You have a lot of reputation. You can trade in like 60% reputation for 1 orange keycard, right? That's awesome. So you go to the NPC, you trade in the reputation, and now you have an orange keycard. Cool. You better use it now, because the keycards that you get from this NPC would be like white keycards. So this orange keycard, it cannot be stashed, it cannot be sold, and it cannot be dropped on death. It's a quick way to get keycards if you really need them. So like if you're doing a bunker raid with your friends and you really need a red keycard or just 1 blue keycard, you can go to this NPC and quickly get it. But again, you cannot stash it, you cannot sell it, you have to use it right there, right now. I think this would solve an issue of grinding, because you wouldn't need to grind 1 broker mission over and over and over again just for a chance to get a purple keycard. And again, just more usefulness to the whole reputation system in the factions. And the last suggestion that I have for factions is just increase faction NPCs and increase their health and damage. Because seriously, it is so incredibly easy to raid other faction bases. It's actually insane. You know, factions should like serve as some kind of save zone per se, so you feel safe inside your faction, and you again take care of your factions through missions, and the faction takes care of you. You know, they defend you and stuff. And if you increase the amount of NPCs at factions and their damage and the health, then that could make the raiding mission that I mentioned previously a lot more fun. And it could just make factions as a whole just feel more like home, you know? So that is my suggestions for maybe an upcoming factions update. I know that Silver is currently working on a factions update. They're adding like control points maybe and stuff like that, so I'm very excited for that. But until then, these were my suggestions. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below, and if you have your own ideas for like factions, just let me know, man. I'll read them, and maybe even the developers will read them. I don't know. So those were my suggestions, those were my ideas. I just spat out a lot of stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.